Welcome to Brokeree Add-On Interview Series. In this series, we sit down with clients, partners, and experts to explore how the industry is evolving and what that means for brokers, tech providers, and any stakeholders alike. Hosted by Brokeree Solutions, these conversations are designed to add value to the financial services space by sharing insights, encouraging collaborations, and unlocking ideas that drive growth and innovation. Whether you are new to the industry or have been around for a while, there is something here for you. Hi, and welcome to Brokeree Add-On Series. My name is Paulina, and in this series, we'll look at how things have changed over time, what's going on right now, and what might be coming next. Let's jump into today's conversation with Anton, our marketing manager. Hello, Anton.
Hello.
Can you tell, before we start, something about your expertise and experience?
Absolutely. I've been in the marketing for basically all my career. I've been to different projects in different industries, but overall, the majority of experience, relevant experience for this talk, I guess, was in Brokeree, where I've been in the company for 7 years now. So yeah, I'm basically doing everything related to marketing, including deep understanding on what is happening in the market, what's new, what's old, what's still the same, and just trying to shape up a better place for our clients and partners.
Thank you so much. So I wanted to start from a very broad question, because today I wanted to focus on the service in general. In your opinion, from your experience, what a service in general consists of?
It is a very general question. Well, I guess a service is just by definition is something what you do to help, your clients to achieve something. It can be whatever, right? But when we start to drill down into what a service actually is, especially when we look at the grander scheme, enterprise level services or introducing services to larger markets, where it's not just you doing something or as a car mechanic doing something for a single client. No. When you introduce it on scale, the service, of course, has become more and more complicated, so to say. So I'd say a service is not what it consists of, but what it touches. It touches basically all the operations within your company. Unless your company is ready from the ground up for the service, your clients will sense it and your clients will see. And at the end of the day, you wouldn't be able to achieve the greater results or better success for which you might have hoped in the beginning when launching the service.
So in this situation, if I, let's say, buy a turnkey solution from a tech provider and I announce it to my clients, am I providing a service?
I mean, you could be. There are different levels to turnkey solutions, especially now in industry. Some of them, especially on the prop trading side, there are turnkey solutions or turnkey services, which will get you pretty much everything. So as long as you have enough funds to sustain the business, the providers, the vendors, they will give you everything. Marketing support, risk management support, trading platforms, all the technology around it, all the infrastructure, you name it. But the majority of the industry, when we speak about turnkey technology, it's still just a technology part. And a service is not just a technology. It's much more than that, because a service is where your business interacts with your clients. And this is where a service happens, right? If you're using technology to achieve better performance or to give more opportunities or features to your clients, yes, you're using it for the service, but it's not a service in itself.
So as we are trying to understand what the service consists of, and as you said, right now on the financial landscape, there is a lot of tech providers to choose from. What would you say if you are a new company, you want to have your place in the financial markets and you're looking for a tech provider? What would you advise to look at?
In my understanding of how business is built, when you're thinking to enter a space, you should not necessarily be looking at the tech from the start, because the majority of homework you should be doing is still around the market demand, the competition landscape, who is there already providing a service you are planning to provide. So you need to do plenty of research before you jump into tech side. Of course, you might get inspired by seeing a tech or by seeing your competitor launching a service, and you're like, hey, which tech they're using maybe we can replicate it. But usually it's not an advisable route for you if you're planning to establish long-term success of a service, right? You need to understand what your clientele needs, what kind of advantages you as a company have or as a brand. And only then, when you clearly understand what your clients need, can you go and look into the tech, and then we can ask a question, what we are looking from the tech vendor, right?
Of course. So, okay, and my next question will be, because I'm very curious, what do you think, when is the right moment to start looking for technology? But let's talk about what the new established brokerage should do just before they start. What are the crucial points?
Well, first, you need to understand what piece of a market you're going after, right? Are you going to target new investors who know nothing about trading, or are you going to try to get a piece of a pie of professional traders, institutional clients, somebody who's been on the market and been trading for a while? Just by understanding who is your target audience, right? Because going after everybody will get you nowhere. And when we start speaking about what kind of services or what kind of trading conditions some of the clients need, then it starts to become very clear when you know, right? With professional traders, you might not need any ad centers or like educational centers, or you don't need to do webinars and workshops to attract them because they already know the basics, right? For them, you need to just give them smooth experience on the trading platform and maybe some additional services here and there for like analytical chart, like charting tools, some news signals, whatever. They will know what to do. But when we start to target newbies, right, somebody who is new to investing, somebody who's never touched a trading platform, then you would need to introduce other layers to your services. And overall, this is what your brand will be doing. I'm trying to say, I guess, there might not be a need for a certain service in your specific use case. Like if your clients don't need it, you cannot force them a service.
Yes, this is actually what I also wanted to touch today about the innovation in general. So as we know right now on the market, we have all sorts of different solutions targeted for brokers to give to the traders. Some of them are very innovative. Some of them are pretty much more traditional. But what do you think, where new companies should stand between innovative solutions, very new, very fresh, on the market, or the traditional one? How much a new broker should look and push for innovative products?
That's a very good question. It's one of my favorites. This is a question I've been actually like going more into details over the course of, couple of last years, especially when we've seen a rise in like prop trading industry, where we reached the point, we've reached a situation where lots of companies were starting to look the same because they were using the same technology. Basically, you wouldn't be able to say which one is doing what in a different way, right? So getting back to the question, is innovation needed? And in my understanding, or like my view of the current market landscape, some of the companies might not realize that innovation or trying to do something different and new might also backfire, because it's something which the industry might just not be able to accept. Because at the end of the day, retail CFD trading is a quite traditional place, right? Like it took us years to get from MetaTrader 4 to MetaTrader 5. So there are still cases where traders just know their systems and they're benefiting from them, I assume. And there might not be a need for innovation, or like you don't need to focus too much on new features, as long as you understand what is a service value you provide, right? Because just providing access to a technology, it's not about you providing anything, basically. It's just like, hey, we do support additional platform. Okay, but like your current clientele doesn't care about it. You haven't adjusted your marketing, you haven't adjusted your service. You don't have a team ready to onboard clients on a new trading platform. So you basically didn't do anything. And that's why we see lots of companies failing to make use of said innovation. So in this case, again, I would get back to the drawing board and just look at what we are providing, whom we try to achieve, reach, and what value do we want to provide them before we start to think about innovation features and underlying technology.
Okay, so from your perspective, you would go to ABC, to the very beginnings, to get to know your audience. Who are you? Who are your traders? where they're coming from.
That's the majority of issues I'm seeing, where the service provided is just way too broad. Like, technology nowadays is so sophisticated and complicated. Even like if we take an example of like, brokerage tech, right? We have so many features, and it's not a necessity for you to use them all. And you cannot understand which ones you need to use unless you understand who is the end user who is going to be using it, right? When you just launch a service, install technology, integrate it wherever, right, and then just enable everything, you're just spreading yourself too thin, and nobody will understand, and everybody will be confused. But if you try to focus the service, at least in the beginning, for a specific set of clients, you will see better results, or at least more sustainable results for the service you provide.
You said a very interesting thing before that I wanted to touch about the solutions in general for brokers. From your marketing perspective, what would you say to the brokers who are purchasing solution, who they know like their competition, they have it, they use it? What are the key factors to differentiate from other brokers?
Again, as mentioned here, right? Usually technology is not a limiting factor. And from, again, an abundance of clients we have, an abundance of clients other tech providers have, you start to notice patterns which are not necessarily market-driven patterns. This is something which happened to be the default setup on the platform, and a company is just like assuming that this is the way. And it might be the way for some group of clients, right? Because basically we're targeting global operations and international companies, and something which works for the audience in Southeast Asia might not work at all in LATAM region, just because of the mindset of a trader, just a different group of traders, right? And if you don't understand that, you might as well be looking the same to all your competition, because everybody at the end of the day uses same MetaTrader. They will hedge you to pretty much the same group of liquidity providers. They might be using the same, supporting services around it. But what makes you a different, a brand with whom a client resonates is basically what branding is, right? You need to understand whom you target, what kind of supporting services you do around the main service or the main tech. And this is what is prominent with the companies which use our tech, for example. The ones who are doing really good, it's very apparent that they're providing a service. So if, let's say, they're providing social trading, you will see it everywhere. It is not just going to be one button hidden way down the line on the menu on the website, but it's something which they will run workshops around. They will run trading competitions to attract new traders, talented traders, whatever, right? They will find new ways to work around the tech. And this is, at the end of the day, will be a service. Like, hey, you want a copy? You can do it with us. This is not the tech we, promote, but we are promoting the approach to you as a trader. We care about your results. That's why we run a competition. And here you can see, who is doing better, right? Or we are focusing on some specific indicators on our leaderboard. Instead of you just spamming return and some irrelevant statistics, we will just make it transparent and show the things which matter to you as a client. Because some other metrics might matter to other clients, but they will be irrelevant to you. And if we don't understand that, again, back to the drawing board, just go and see who is your client, or at least who is the target audience you are planning to achieve. And this is what should be a core or like a running theme across all your service creation steps. Before you think about it, while you're doing it, and when you are already launched and you're reviewing the success of it.
So I think that we can add to the previous question about picking the right technology provider, that it's crucial right now on the market that we should pick, at least we should try to find a technology which is elastic enough that we can work around it, not the other way around.
That's a very, very good point. And this is what happened with some of the companies which started to launch prop trading, especially. Like, this is where it became very noticeable, where some of tech providers, not the major one, but like some of the smaller tech providers, started to basically lock you into the system, or like lock you into their way of thinking about the solution or the service. So here you're already limited by some other company deciding what kind of features are relevant to you as a business, and they might know it better for their specific clientele. But again, if you're trying to differentiate yourself, if you're trying to be somewhat innovative or exclusive with your services, you either have to go and pick a tech provider who is, as you said, elastic enough and flexible and like have all the things which are customizable, and then, will have all the operations in place to support your business, right? Because there are lots of interesting cases in technology which hasn't been around for that long, and they might have very good tech, but here we need to start questioning, will they have the same performance? Will they be able to sustain it for years to come? And this is also very important, and in some cases might even be neglected when picking a technology, right? We pick a technology or a solution because of their fancy features or because of other brands working with it. But you might not realize that those brands might barely have any clients. And here you go and want to introduce 1 million users, actively working on a platform, and the platform is just not there performance-wise. So you need to know all the steps, all the stuff. I'm sorry, before you go and pick a tech.
That is an amazing point. Also, additionally, looking at the landscape right now, we see a lot of new tech providers coming with different tools, and it's started to get a bit crowded in terms of the possibilities while picking.
Yes, I guess more options is good in a sense that you can find better suiting things. But when we think to onboard a tech provider for our business, and we want our business to stay in line, we should, consider the longevity of a business and how long the company been on the market. Because some companies might just have a better proven record, and some companies might be surviving on a small number of clients they have, but it doesn't necessarily make them a better partner for the long run, right?
Of course, of course. I wanted to get back to the more business approach of launching a new service. How do you know? Can you tell before launching a new service if it's even worth the investment?
That's a very tricky part, right? Because because as with any business planning and any business development research, there are tools to predict or to estimate. But if you haven't done your research, you are in the know for sure, right? But if you have done your research and you do understand that, hey, we're targeting this specific clientele, and from numerous research from different media providers or different agencies who can run those services for you, you can estimate how many clients you might be getting. And with that, you will be able to set your benchmarks and KPIs. But what also important is the cost of technology, and this becomes prominent even when we are doing some competition analysis and just seeing what's happening on the market and what kind of offers there are. And rarely do brokers ask you questions which will give them estimates on how much they will be spending if their service is growing. And this is a good thing for a service to be growing, right? But if you have signed up for a tech which will be costly which costs nothing in the beginning, but will become costly quite rapidly when you increase your operations. Here, it's not only about how successful is the service, right? Because if you're not monetizing it additionally, then you are in a bad place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's been also happening with the prop firms, right? The key illustrator of what you should not be doing in case where we're introducing a service where selling it for cheap, but at the end of the day, we're promising higher returns and bigger payouts, and math just doesn't add up. So you should not only focus on how much money you will make from the service, but also how much it will cost you, especially when you're picking a tech provider. And it becomes prominent when you come to a tech provider with questions and specific use cases like, hey, what if we are generating this much volume with that many clients with such a big infrastructure? How much will that cost me?
This is actually an amazing point, because I agree 100% that many brokers at the market right now, when launching a new product, a new service, do not even talk about the numbers in the future in terms of success. In the situation where if this project will succeed, 100%.
And this is something which you should be doing as a business, right? If you're planning to buy a service or like a technology to run a service for a year, 2 years, you need to ask these kind of questions, because this all adds up to the investment, to initial investment, to potential future support. And then getting back to what service consists of, right? Service is not just technology and a promise you give to a client. Service also requires you to have a team internally, especially when you start to grow. You might need to hire an additional project manager, like somebody responsible for the service development, somebody who will be in contact with all the tech you acquired, who will be in contact with all the clients who use it. And this will also add up. So unless you know these things from the beginning, you might get surprised of how much certain services might cost you in the future.
You said something in my opinion, very important about the team. So what do you think, what is the importance of a team when not even launching, but even considering a new service?
I think it's very important. Like, you can get by having the same people who are doing something else being assigned temporarily to run a service, right?
Of course.
But at the end of the day, if we're thinking about such big services like copy trading or like money management services, or like PAM technology or whatever, right? You need to have a team, or at least some person who is responsible for it. Because at some point, your clients will just start bombarding you with questions about the service, how to use it, how to work with it. And then if you want to start to optimize the success of your service, you also need to understand what's happening. And in many cases, we see that it's just a random group of people who is, being randomly assigned to a service at different times, and they just don't have the accumulated knowledge and expertise around the service. And no wonder they don't see such a great results as some other brands do, who have, the team of 5, 8, 10, 30 people running the service for them.
So let's say we decide we are launching a service today. What would you say to, of course, get through this process as smoothly as possible? What would be the key steps, key considerations?
The first, I would say, the question why we're going that direction, right? Like, do we need a service? Because somebody else is offering might not necessarily indicate that this is the key strength or key point for why they're winning some of the clients. So here you need to understand what is the main factor, right? Are we trying to just onboard more clients, or are we trying to get more money, or are we trying to increase deposits? What is the underlying problem we're trying to solve with the new service, right? Because launching something new and fresh might seem appealing, but if you start to understand all the hard work around it, without the answers to these questions, why and what is the problem we're trying to solve, you might as well get nowhere, right? First, we understand what is the problem. Then we need to understand who is our target audience. Because in some cases, if we're trying to enter new markets, we might need to launch a new service because our offering right now does not suit that market. But in some cases, you might already have the existing clientele and you just want to upsell and, get more money from them, or, provide them more benefits in return for their money. But in that case, that's already a different kind of prep work. And here you need to understand, who is the audience you're working with right now and who is the target audience of the service you're planning to launch. And only at that step, we start to see, okay, we understand who we're launching, what their needs, what they want, what we can offer them right now, and then what we cannot offer them. And at that point, we start to craft a service for them. And at the crafting part, can we go and start speaking with other tech providers? We start to research our competitors to see what kind of services and whether they provide similar services, right? And we can already pick some ideas from that. And at that part, when you start to, vet your tech provider to see the tech you need, you start to go into depth with, all the financials around it. What's the forecasted, thing, or like my forecasted results we're planning to achieve, right? Or like, what is the cost of the service in the long run, in the beginning, in the middle? Do we see an increase in investment? Do we see the stable, maintenance level of resources we need to allocate for it? And I guess at that point, once you have all the building blocks, you start crafting your service. You start to configure the tech you chosen to the clients you want, and then it's just a daily work where you present those features, you announce it, and then you get feedback from your clients if it's working, if it's something they needed. And then you start to optimize and work around it and try to find how you can use the acquired tech and your team to better potential to give the best value possible to the client you're trying to reach.
Thank you so much, Anton, for today's conversation. Just as a reminder, we discussed launching a new service, what service in general is, what we can understand it for, how crucial team inside the brokerage is when launching a new service, and what to look for in a tech company. Do you want to add something?
I think for the most part, every company might already have the tech they need. Usually the problems are around the service. So when we focus on our clients, everything will start to fall into place and great things will come from it.
Of course. Anton, we all know how fast-paced and always awake financial markets and working in financial markets is. So I wanted to ask you as my last question, what do you personally like to do to unwind after a long week, after a long working day?
I guess lots of walks in the nature, painting flowers, and playing guitar.
Playing guitar.
Just something creative to get you out of the out of the routine.
Of course. Thank you so much, Anton. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
For having this conversation today. And of course, thank you to the listeners.
Looking forward to future episodes.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for watching and being part of the conversation. If you found this insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and consider hitting the bell icon so you never miss an episode. Stay tuned for more industry insights, expert opinions, and actionable ideas right here on Brokeree Add-On Interview Series.